Hi, Peter King with the MMQB here, and I'm here today with Tim Layden from Sports Illustrated, the longtime great writer at SI. Tim has written a very special story on the life and times and really the legacy of Jim Brown, who I consider to be the greatest running back of all time. Tim, I was so curious after reading your story how it was that he came to retire from football when he was the best player in the NFL at that time.
Yeah, he's 29 years old, coming off a year in which he rushed for 1,500 yards and was named MVP of the league.
In a 12-game season, right?
14 at the
14,
time. Yeah, but still, a big season. And he rushed for 700 more yards than anybody else in the league. And he retired at age 29. And really, the legend has been that he retired because he was done with it. And he was physically in his prime, could have played easily 3 to 5 more years and probably been dominant for a couple of them. It actually comes to, you find out as you research this that there were a few things at work. Number one, he had enough, and he was beginning to act in movies, and he was going to really blaze a whole new trail of that as an African-American leading man. But also he had a contract holdout with the Browns while he was on the set of a movie in England.
The Dirty Dozen. Correct.
Yeah. And Art Modell, the owner of the Browns at the time, decided to fine him $100 a day for every day that he wasn't in training camp, and that was the end of it. Because you were taking a guy with immense pride and saying, I'm going to take money away from you. And Jim Brown said to me, I looked at Art and I said, Art, you can't find me if I don't show up. I'm done. It's over. And that was it.
Wasn't it amazing at the time? You know, I thought what was so cool in your story is the players of his era, the players who played with him, against him, how stunned they were that he left the game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Paul Wiggin, who was playing with him for the Browns, said, I played 1 more year than Jim. Jim could have played 10 more years than I could have. Dick LeBeau, longtime defensive coordinator now with the Titans, just said he was way too young and way too good to hang it up. But we were happy to see him go at the same time. And that was across the league, because this was, 1966 in the summer. There was no information superhighway. He was in England and we were over here, and nobody knew that this might happen. They just woke up one morning and it had happened, and the best player in the league, Aaron Rodgers today, gone overnight.
Why does Jim Brown matter? Why should Jim Brown matter to fans and players today?
Well, start with the numbers. 104.3 yards a game.
He averaged a 100-yard game.
Averaged 104 yards a game for his entire career, 118 games without ever missing a game. And nobody else has been over 100 for their career. For Adrian Peterson to catch him this year and get above that 100, he'd have to rush for almost 2,600 yards this year, or average almost 2,000 for 4 more years to catch him, playing 16 games every year. That number is almost considered unreachable. Never missed a game, averaged 5.4 yards every time he touched the ball, and really was a 2 generations ahead of his time, really. As he says to me, 232 pounds, 6'2", and with the feet of a much smaller man. There's this legend that he just ran over people, but he also, Dick LeBeau said to me, his first option was always to make you miss. And if you didn't miss, well, then you were really in trouble.
I thought the rare combination that he had of being able to make people miss, not in an O.J. Simpson or Barry Sanders way, but in a way that surprises you. I always thought about Jerome Bettis. Watching Jerome Bettis, he's a totally different back from Jim Brown, but everybody would look at Jerome Bettis and say, hey, the only way this guy is great is if he steamrolls you. That isn't true. Jerome Bettis was fast, and he could make some people miss. He could make linebackers miss. And I thought Jim Brown, the power back and also the ability to get outside on anybody.
Yeah, and the thing that comes up, and Belichick was good talking about this in the story, is that Jim he wasn't like a Gale Sayers type with that flashy cutback and leaving tacklers grabbing at air. He would move sort of at 3/4 speed, and what people say is he would set you up. He would establish the leverage point that you would have to try and tackle him at, and then he would go somewhere else. And Belichick said that years later, working with the young Browns running backs when Belichick was coaching in Cleveland, he also had a great ability, and still does, to communicate that. It's not just your feet, it's not just your shoulders, it's your eyes and your mind. What are you seeing down the field? What is the guy who wants to tackle you seeing? So in those ways, people that want to say that Brown wouldn't be as effective now, well, the people that really know the game say that the intellectual part of his game translates across all generations.
For Tim Layden, for the MMQB, I'm Peter King.